computer. Got it. Well, hello, everybody. It is April 24, 2023. And welcome to RASC Victoria Center Astro Cafe. As I said a bit earlier, Chris Peirce is he's away. And so I'm going to be doing the recording and I'm hosting, and we have a wonderful agenda with our main feature will be Carina Ockedahl talking about Astronomy by Night, the new amateur astronomy, Canadian amateur astronomy website. We are going to start with a very special guest right beside me. Kemi Daniel was at the Vancouver Island Regional Science Fair just last weekend, and our distinguished committee of Dorothy and Lauri went around the projects, and they offered Kemi a special mention for her project, and she's here with her father Io, and she's armed with a couple of cookies, and we're ready for you to talk. And don't talk to the microphone, talk all the way out to the people out there so they can hear you nice and loud. Okay, you can share your screen.
Thank you so much for inviting me. The title of my presentation is called Pendulum Experiment to Measure Local Gravity. Here are some interesting facts about gravity before I start. Galileo did the first pendulum experiment in 1602, and Sir Isaac Newton discovered the force of gravity in 1665 or 1666. And gravity keeps the moon in orbit around the Earth without crashing into it or floating away. So the moon would usually try to go elsewhere, and then the Earth would use its gravitational pull to pull it back. And that cycle keeps repeating, and that's how the moon orbits the Earth. Gravity also causes the tides of the oceans. So the moon also has a gravitational pull on the Earth, but it's quite small. So it would kind of like pull the oceans to itself. And when the sun and the moon are aligned on the Earth's axis, there would be extremely high tides at the equator and extremely low tides at the poles. Here's my big question. How can I measure gravity using a simple pendulum? Here's my hypothesis. I think that I am able to measure local gravity from my house in Victoria using simple household items and get a value closer to the commonly known Earth's gravity. I think the difference will be because gravity varies depending on where you are on Earth, and using household items I think will introduce some errors. Here are my materials. I used a meter string, a 6.4 ounces mass, a ruler, a pen, a paper, a stopwatch, and a hook in a free space. My independent variable is the length of the pendulum string, and my dependent variable is the period. Here's my procedure. First, I attach the mass to my string, or some people call it a bob. Then I attach my string to a hook in a free space. Then I let the mass swing from side to side, and I measure the time it takes for 10 complete cycles. And then this process is repeated for 10 different string lengths. And I record my observations in a Google Sheet table, and I follow the equation of pendulum and plot length versus period squared. Then I compare the equation of the line with the equation of pendulum. Here are some a few notes or definitions of things you might not know in my presentation. The equation of pendulum is p squared equals 4 pi squared L over G. And P is the period, and the period is the number of cycles in 1 second. So how many times it swings back and forth in 1 second. And square, the little floating 2, is called square, and it basically just like multiplies whatever it's by itself. Then G is the gravity, and L represents the width of the string, and a graph or a chart shows the relationship between 2 or more variables. Here are my results. This is my table of observation. It has 5 different observations of different string lengths. And each one has its own measured period. Then I put these observations into a Google Sheet chart, and I fit a line to it. And every line has its own equation. The equation for this line is y equals 4.16 x plus 15. Now I compared this equation to the equation of pendulum, and after doing a little bit of math and rearrangements, I got my G, which is my gravity, to be 9.5 meters per second squared. Okay. The normal gravity value on Earth is about 9.81 meters per second squared, while my result was 9.5 meters per second squared. The difference may be due to a combination of 2 things. The first is gravity variation, depending on your location on Earth. The second and more important thing is the imperfect experiment conditions I had, such as using basic household items. Here's my conclusion. My hypothesis was correct at 9.5 meters per second squared. The estimated gravity of my house is slightly lower than the Earth's gravity at 9.81 meters per second squared. Here are my references. Thanks to my teacher, family, and classmates for their support in completing this project. Thanks also to the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada and Victoria for the awards and the invitation to present. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's great. Does anybody have a question for Kemi?
I have a question. It's Janine from Nanaimo.
Go ahead.
Hi there. I really appreciated how clearly you explained the different steps. As someone who's a non-scientist, I was really able to follow along because of the clarity. My question is, we often hear about the thrill of scientific discovery. How did you feel when you got so close to the actual gravity measurement with your own measurements? Was that a surprise, or were you anticipating that?
I felt really, surprised too, because I felt surprised that gravity changes depending on where you are.
And you proved it with your own household items. That was very illuminating. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an interesting anecdote, but I'll put that in after the questions. Lauri's next.
Hi, Kemi. Thank you so much for presenting your project at the science fair, and for doing so well in front of a number of people that you don't know at all. It could be rather intimidating, but you've done very well indeed. I wanted to ask what kind of research you did at why gravity is different in different parts of the world, and like, is it different on it, like in the Arctic, like compared to at the equator, or is it different for the geographical formations rather than kind of in the sea. I mean, did you do any kind of work on that as to what would happen?
Yes, actually. So the reason gravity changes where you are is because the core of the Earth is what gives the Earth its gravity. And if you're closer to the core, then you would have more gravity. But if you're more further away from the core, then you'll have less gravity. So if you were at the poles, then you would probably have more gravity than you would at the equator.
Can you tell me why that would be? Is it flattened, or like what's happening to make it? Is there a difference in the diameter or the radius between that?
Well,
That's getting pretty sophisticated, but that's true.
well, the poles, since they're like straight line, they are closer to the core than the equator because the equator is like round and it's farther away.
So it's a little bit flattened. It's a
Yeah.
little bit flattened, right? Okay. So is there a difference between being at the top of Mount Everest and being at the bottom of the ocean?
Yes, probably. So like I'm thinking that if you're at the bottom of the ocean, maybe you would have more gravity because you're closer to the Earth's core. And if you're at the top of Mount Everest, maybe you would have less gravity because you're getting further and further away from the Earth's core.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kemi.
Dave.
Oh, congratulations.
Dave.
Yeah. Congratulations, Kemi. That was a fantastic project and presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you try a different weight? Did you have time to do that?
No, not really, because like, as I said, I'm using household items, so I didn't use a proper mass. I just kind of used something hanging around the house.
Okay.
What was it?
I used a Rubik's Cube.
That's good improvising.
Thank you.
And Dave Lee.
Thanks, Kemi. Great depiction of the scientific method. That's very good. Kemi, can you tell me or maybe elaborate? You mentioned that you thought some of the imprecision or some of the difference in results may be because you are using household items. What do you mean by that? Like, what kind of variation could you have seen that would have caused the differences?
Well, I think maybe if I'd used a different mass, definitely I would have gotten a different results, and maybe I would have changed the hook I used because I think it was a little unstable.
Okay. And another question would be, you said that you felt that you were close. If it was 10, a value of 10, would you still say you were close?
Did you say if it was 10?
Yeah, if your measurement was 10, would you say that that was consistent?
Yes, I would say that's a little.
Okay. Yeah, it's something to consider because every
Yeah.
time when we measure things, we have to determine how close is close. Like, in other words, if I get a measurement, is it possible that it's just by chance that it's only slightly different, or is it demonstrably different? Anyways, good experiment. Thank you.
If you got 20, would it be close?
I think so.
John McDonald, I saw your hand.
Hi, I just want to say congratulations as well. I'm a physicist, so I've taught this kind of thing in the past, and I know you're a bit young to be thinking about what you do in the future, but I hope you continue to work on this kind of thing because it would be nice to see you in a physics course at university someday.
I have a bit of inside information that Kemi is the daughter of 2 geophysicists. My anecdote is there was, when they were trying to make a universal way of defining a meter, somebody had the clever ideas, the length of a pendulum that has a 1 second half period, because it's a 2 seconds if you it's about 2 seconds if gravity were exactly 10 meters per second squared. And then they went and tried this out. What is the length that gave a 1 second period in different places? And they realized that, as Kemi was suggesting, the length got, let's get it right, shorter as you went towards the equator. And they said, oh, that's not a universal measurement. And then they did this 10 millionth of the distance from the equator to the pole, which they figured was something that anybody with the right methodology could measure. And it was about the same, you know, they designed it to be something that was about a yard or a meter. They wanted something like that. But the original hope was that gravity was a constant on the Earth. And like Kemi just did, they proved it wasn't the case. Little anecdote. Lauri, your hand is up.
Yes, I just wanted to add in that Kemi, your class has been invited to a tour of the Dominion Astrophysical Observatory and up at the center of the universe. And your class is going to be coming on your last day of school, June the 23rd. So we've already talked to your teacher, and that's already been fixed up. So that was just kind of another one of the things that Kemi was able to do. So I think her class will be very interested in coming up to see the center as well. So thanks.
Thank you so much.
What a treat. Dorothy.
Kemi, I just wanted to ask you a question I asked you at the fair, and I thought you handled it very well because it was literally out of the blue, off the Earth. I asked you whether you could run this experiment on Mars, if you could get it onto one of the Mars explorers. Do you remember how you talked about that?
Yes, yes.
What did you say?
I think I said, I think I'll get a lower gravity because I don't really know.
Don't remember?
Yeah. You said it was a smaller planet, which is right.
Yeah.
And that answer won you a prize.
Well, we talked about maybe the atmosphere having something to do with it, and that gets pretty complicated too, to have this in a sealed box with Earth's atmosphere, so to speak, in it. But what was impressive was that Kemi stayed just like a scientist should. I'll think about this and do the best I can. Very nice, Kemi. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thanks to Dorothy and Lauri for interviewing our candidates at the science fair. This is a lovely bit of outreach that the RASC does, and you made us proud. Next week, we're going to have, they could not decide on which of these two projects was better, and so they gave a first prize to Evan Warnburton and to Nathan Helner Messelman, and both will be presenting next week. So you got to come next week also. So very good. If you want to stay, you are very welcome. And if you don't want to stay, you can just grab your cookies and you can go as you like.
You grab your cookies and stay.
Leslie, you don't have any cookies yet.
Yes,
saw
I
that.
have.
Oh, you came right up?
I
Okay,
moved
good.
them down so quickly you didn't notice.
Okay, well, it is now going to be our next item in today's Astro Cafe. Carina Ockedahl, is that how you pronounce your name, Carina?
Yeah, I would say Ockedahl, yeah. Or
Oh,
3 different, depending on language, Ockedahl in French, and my dad says it Ockedahl because he's actually
Ockedahl.
Swedish. So
I am delighted when we heard the news. Everybody, I think I can speak for everybody, is sad. We are sad that we will not have another issue of Sky News. It has been a friend of ours for many years. And when we got the news that we get to still have some good Canadian content with many of the authors that we know and respect, it just made my day. And let's hear about this new project.
perfect. Well, first of all, thanks, Randy, and thanks everybody in Victoria for the opportunity to present this website. And a quick shout out to Kemi. Your presentation was really excellent. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I do have one quick question for Kemi. What grade are you in?
I'm in grade 5.
That's so great. That's so so great. All right, so I will just share the screen. And I apologize in advance. I'm coming off of a cold with a dry cough.
And
I'm
where
gonna mute
are
myself too. So I'm based in Montreal, Quebec.
So it's 10 o'clock, it's 10:30 for you.
Yeah. So that's fine. If you see a little one appearing behind me, it shouldn't happen, but she might pass by. I have a 6-year-old in the house sleeping, but she sleeps pretty deep. So you mentioned weather's not so good here. It's quite rainy and cold. We were not able to see the meteor shower yesterday from where I am, but hopefully some of you got some great pictures from that. So I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen on the website.
Yep.
All right. So just a bit of backstory about this website. When Sky News closed, I guess when I closed up the editorial side and that was done with, I received a lot of comments. So a lot of people were sad, which was to be expected. And I thought about it for a little while, and the idea kind of came to, why don't I just create a new website, a news website with a newsletter. Originally, I thought maybe it could be a digital magazine, but that was moving a little too fast. So just a news website with a newsletter. And of course, my husband, he has a background in programming, so he offered to do the website if I went ahead with it. So it sat around in my mind for a little bit. And eventually I spoke to the RASC president, Charles Ennis, who was supportive of the idea. We went back and forth about this for a little while. And finally I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So with that commenced creating the articles, talking to contributors, reaching out to different people in the field and seeing what's possible. And so this came about. So this is really the result of a lot of people really having a passion for astronomy, wanting this to be out there in the community and helping me out to do this. It was my husband, it was the contributors, there were even some suppliers and some manufacturers that were very supportive, and of course people from RASC as well. So here it is, Astronomy by Night. So what does it have? Of course, it has all the news you may be used to having from Sky News and other websites as well. There's an astro photo of the week, which has been quite popular, and we've set up the form with some rules that I've adjusted. Everything's quite easy, clean. for those that are interested in submitting photos. And of course, we have the editor's note, which I always love to provide once in a while. And so the official launch was today. The editor's note was published today. And if you're ever eager to understand the development of the site, what it has to offer in more detail, everything is in the editor's note. So the soft launch was on April 11th. We fixed the bugs and added a few things. We've added a newsletter, donations, and we've cleaned up, like I said, some of the bugs. And we've integrated some of the collaborations that we've had. So, for example, here for the meteor shower that we weren't able to see in Montreal, at least not on the tip of the island, we have a collaboration with simulation with Sky Safari, in which we're still testing it out, but they've provided us with the app to kind of use, and then you can kind of play around with it. Now I can create different views of this app, which it's still a work in progress, but the basic one is the one where that was just provided. And so you're able to kind of move it around. It's very light, something still in progress, but more of these will appear with articles. So for example, what's new this week would have maybe some pictures, but this app could appear with an actual picture focused on the area we're discussing. Maybe it's a planet, maybe it's a particular star, in which case you'll be able to move it and to interact with it. So that's one example. Like I said, we have our photo of the week winners, and that is being judged by Dan Coos, who was one of the 3 judges from Sky News. So he's back, and he will be doing some writing as well. Right now, he's providing lots of commentary on the winners and the runner-up. And there's actually a nice profile about Dan, if you're interested about how he came into astrophotography, why, and his judging experience, and his gorgeous pictures. This week's Night Sky from Chris Vaughn, also from Sky News, his usual stuff, which is really great. So for example, this is an article that we'd be able to embed the Sky Safari app with specific pictures to maybe have the moon and Pollux and this in an interactive environment where you can pull it closer and move it out and play around with it. So that's one example. And of course, want to mention that Alan Dyer is also one of our contributors. He'll be doing more than just gear reviews, but right now we're starting him off on gear review. And so he's provided some really nice stuff, and you'll see more of his articles moving forward. And then of course we have, I'd like to mention a few new things, columns. We have one from Charles Ennis, if you're interested in world asterisms. That's a regular column in which he discusses them in great detail. We also have Samantha Lawler, who is a professor of astronomy. And she's talking about, here in her column, she discusses her research. So she's a professor of astronomy from the University of Regina. And so her columns will be focused more on KBOs and light pollution, specifically related to satellites. And so, let's see. There's a couple of things I'd like to highlight as well. Profiles are something that's new that I didn't include in Sky News, and that are not so much included as much on other websites. So a lot of research was done. Yes, I have my background in Sky News as being the former editor, but we researched as many astronomy websites as we could, all of the competitors in the US, everything we can find, the small websites in Canada, even checking out the global ones in the UK. And we looked at what worked, what didn't, where stats would be pushed higher on certain aspects, such as astrophotography, certain observing videos, this and that. We did some of our own research. So Astrophotography is a big pull. We have the article for Dan Cruz where we did a profile, and we did one from Sumyadeep, excuse me, from India. So one thing that we opened up is the photo, the astro photo of the week is really not just for Canadians, for everyone. Although if things go well with the website, we are looking to do the astro photo of the year, and that will be specifically for Canadians. But we've opened this up to have more people provide information, their photos, and we'd like to interview them from all over the world so we understand what they're doing, where they are, and how they've grown into the hobby or the profession, if that's what they're doing. We also have a collaboration with the Actual Astronomy podcast. That is a podcast that goes on every week. There's about, I believe, 2 podcasts that go out per week. Excuse me. And so the podcast is, let's see.
If you want us to hear it, you've got,
Oh,
there's a button that you have to press, something like original sound, I forget.
oh, I'll let you guys check it out then after. I don't want to play around
That's
too much.
fine.
It's really just, it's Chris, Ben, and Shane, 2 guys that are having a discussion with any of their guests. You know, it could be Dave Chapman, this time was Alistair Ling. It could really, there was Brian Ventrudo, one of our previous contributors from Sky News, that was on this as well. So many different people that talk about a different aspect of astronomy. In this case, it was M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy. And so that discussion is like an hour long. And what we take out of it are parts that we found the most interesting for a quick news bit, how to find M51, how to pronounce this. And then, of course, the Earl who found the spiral in M51, which we found interesting. And so we have people that also submit images or sketches on the podcast, and that shared it with Astronomy by Night. And of course, this is the actual sketch, or this is a version of the sketch. So those are some things we're testing out to see if people are interested in these type of things. And of course, more video interviews to come. I'll be doing lots of video interviews. I have a journalism background. So of course, I love doing those. So that's about, I want to make sure I'm good on time. That's Astronomy by Night in a nutshell. I like to keep it a clean website. We've also looked into regular news, for example, light pollution. We've done some interviews about sky glow, what the issue is around that. If you have any news from the Victoria Center, you have an Eclipse page, or you have something coming up on you know, Astronomy Day or something that's newsworthy, and I'm sure a lot of it is, you can share it with us as well, and we'd love to add some of it to the website. I'm always hunting down for news, so I'm always happy to have something. But of course, there's regular news from NASA, from Noir Lab, from Hubble, as much as you can, as many of you can think. And of course, we have a star chart. The star chart is done in collaboration with Heavens Above. So we've done an interview with Chris from Heavens Above, and that will appear online probably next week. And so Chris, what he did is he has a website that's very old school. He's in Germany. But what it does is that you can actually, oops, close that, create a star chart by putting in your location. You can have it in black and white if you want, and you put in the day, month, you know, year, the hour, the minutes, and what size you want in, constellations, ecliptic line, and you'll get an image of that. So in this case, I was able to receive images for Montreal, Regina, and of course, Vancouver, all at the same. So that's it. We'll be adding more information to the star chart. And Chris from Heavens Above plans to expand that website in the coming years, so that'll be more interesting. So other than that, we also have, like I said, regular news that we've added. The first thing I actually added to the website. and the planets, of course. So to conclude on this, we're testing a lot of things. We have Google Analytics. I'm a huge fan of Google Analytics, and I love to see, I love to review stats and see what's working, what's not. And we'll be adjusting things on the website and what's being published based on what we're seeing when we have enough viewers to justify, what's really being suggested through those stats. So if you have any preferences, feel free to mention them. And I think that's about it. So I think I've kept pretty well to my time too, hopefully.
Since this is very informal, whatever you took was going to be just fine.
Okay, perfect.
I can think of a bunch of questions, but let's go at I see David Lee is up.
Hi, Carina. Thank you for doing this. I'm one of the people that miss Sky News. I remember it from its early days. One thing I want to applaud you on is your desire to add in some global perspectives as well. I really like that. I kind of frequent BBC at night as well as North American sites, so I like to see that perspective. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Carina, a thing that is very notably missing is advertising. And I'm wondering, is this because you're not doing that yet, or are you actually going to give us an experience where we're not pestered by all that advertising?
I would love to give you that experience and enjoy it right now while you can. I was in discussion with advertisers well before the launch to see if there was an interest in including any marketing dollars in the website. And so there is with some the advertisers that I did reach out to, and I have more still to reach out to that wanted to see it when this website was published. But I can't, right now, there needs to be a certain amount of I guess users viewing the page on a regular basis to justify having them pay for those advertising dollars. We're also not looking at the regular type of advertising. Advertisers that do want to do typical banners and box ads, of course, will never say no to that. But I've been looking more for sponsorship from these advertisers, as well as native advertising in the form of articles, videos, and things like that. So we're looking at different venues and even still researching different ways we can work with them to provide advertising that's not the same usual way. There's a lot of things changing in the field. So Sky News is not the first magazine I've worked for, and there's been a trend that's slowly moving in a different direction right now. So we're just trying to kind of catch on to see where the trend is specifically with astronomy, and then try to follow it. So advertising will take some time. And it really, like I mentioned in the editor's note that I sent, it's really going to depend on how much support the website receives. This is a project. I really want to stress that this is a side project that we put a lot of time and love into, and as have a lot of people, and we hope to see it grow, evolve, and thrive in the community. But we will be keeping tabs on this over the next several months to see how many people still enjoy it, how many people are, subscribed to the newsletter, still checking the website, and as we adjust articles to fit what people want to read. And so if it continues to be successful, then that's the chance they'll give us to get those marketing dollars and to grow the website in other areas as well. I hope that answers that question.
It sure does. Dave Payne.
Indeed.
Be able to post our club events and things like that, like star parties and things like that. Would there be a page where we can post those sort of things?
There's nothing that can be posted because this is an editorial news website. Everything has to be newsworthy, and Star Parties is newsworthy. For what I'm thinking to do is more reach out to all the centers and even outside the centers as well to make sure that we are getting as many people as we can from Canada. And and to really see when their star parties are, when their dates are, so I can get all that information. And then I think, like you were alluding to, just list it, create one article where we can list all the different ones depending on where you are, you know, the time, dates, where to show up. So so Randy, you can expect an email about that.
Okay, and we're really happy to have that venue to get people to the Island Star Party. Chris Gainor.
Great. Chris.
I just
How are
wanted
you?
to say hello. I was the editor of Sky News for one issue a few years ago and have been involved in it for quite a while. And I was just delighted to see that you are proceeding with this. And I just wanted to say hello and wish you the best of luck. And, if I can help you out, let me know.
Thanks, Tris. I really appreciate that.
Lauri.
Hello, Carina. Nice to see you in person.
Nice to see you too.
If only virtually. I had a couple of things. First of all, is there going to be any way of being able to incorporate a little bit more First Nations work in here at all, or are you reaching out to that, or is it coming to that part? Because there certainly are places in Canada where that is it's more here. It's a little harder, but in other places there's quite a bit of some things for two-eyed seeing and all of that part. So that's the one thing. And the other was, is there any way of getting in work or articles or things from the youth?
So both great questions. For the first one, we have some things in the works right now that we've reached out to and trying to organize interviews with some people for First Nations. So, well, in this case, we have a book review that we're looking into based specifically on what you had mentioned. I do have 2 contributors in mind that I'd love to cover that. Right now, the website is being it's volunteers right now, professors and myself that's writing the news or just more journalistic articles. So
Okay.
so that's when we have more support, more marketing dollars as well, we'll be putting money more into that, but we are trying to hit those areas and not leave it out completely as well. That is something I do consider important. I considered it important for Sky News as well. That's why we're starting to cover it in the magazine on a regular basis. So the goal is to really build up to being able to give that regular coverage as well.
Okay. Thank you.
The second question, I forgot the second question.
Oh, about having a little bit more for youth and either that you're covering things that they do, or that they can actually put in some articles.
So anybody that wants to volunteer articles, they can all just send a message to me through the contact sheet at Astronomy by Night. I'm always happy to hear from people. One interesting newsworthy item would have been about Kemi, actually. So that was actually really interesting, and it would have been nice to write about that. And there's still that opportunity, Kemi, if you want to reach out. And then we can talk about that and write something about that if you're comfortable with it. I'm always happy to cover youth. I'm also happy to cover people that are in university that are working through certain things, depending on their field. We have some people in physics, we have other people in different departments that are somehow connected to astronomy. So I have put out my feelers for some people that have interviewed in the past. We have a potential in the United States. So I really mean we're looking at a lot of Canadians, but also we want to include some content coming from people really around the world, not just in Canada. And excuse me, just
Thank you, Carina. That it's just good. I just was checking in.
Thank you, and sorry about that.
Carina, as you see, we have a weekly Astro Cafe in the Victoria Center. And in the past, sometimes we've had this week in the sky using various sources. What day are you going to put the sky this week up? When do you post that?
Those I post on Thursday mornings. Yeah.
Halfway through our week, that's too bad.
When would you need to see it? I can,
Oh,
the day is
if you
adjustable.
had it like Monday to Monday, then it would be perfect for us, but it's not perfect for somebody else. Don't change because of us.
The articles that we publish are a week in advance, though.
So it concerns, that's what I really mean,
Yeah.
not when it's posted, but what is the week when you say the sky this week?
Yeah,
What-
it's always 1 week in advance to give people time to plan if they see something interesting that they want to cover or observe.
Perfect.
Or
Yeah,
photograph,
great.
yeah. So, but if there's let me know. You'll see the last one I think we put up. So from last Thursday, oops, let's go back to. See, last Thursday I put up April 24th to 30th. So this Thursday I'll be putting up May 1st to 7th.
Oh, so it is Monday to Monday.
Yeah, in that case, we just publish it on Thursday, but it's, yeah, it would show Monday to Monday.
Well, we might make that a regular feature then.
Okay.
So bigger question, what can we do for you?
Ah,
On Astro Cafe every week, that's one thing we can say.
well, first of all, the opportunity to present was already really great. Thank you so much for that. If you like the website, and if you're comfortable, feel free to mention it or share it with anyone that would find it interesting. The more people that view it, see it, enjoy it, and continue to kind of appear on it and check in on it, really gives a boost and will help with the marketing efforts. So, also, if you have any comments or questions, especially any comments specifically to the editor, which would be me, send them. Don't be shy. I love getting them, good, bad, mixed, doesn't matter to me. I'm always happy to read them. I've gone through a background in illustration and journalism, and that's the feedback you get is all over the place. So don't worry, I can take it. So anything you'd like to share, and of course on your end, I would say feel free to add me too. If you have a media list or if you just have a regular list, feel free to send me information. And when I see things that that trigger an interest and think, okay, this could be really great for everybody, or this might be interesting, there might be a story I can develop here, then of course I'm going to reach out to you and see if there's something more to that, either for an interview or for more information around that, and any images to include on the website.
Oh, and Ken here has a question.
Yes,
You
approval
can't see
question.
him, but he's just.
Yes, I'm hiding here. Approval question. How are you going to get paid for your time?
That is a great question. So the reason we're relying on marketing dollars is really, and any donations is really because all the money that comes into the website will go straight to paying for the maintenance of the website. So the little things that will cost money, the hosting, for example, newsletter, things like that, and specifically to the contributors. It's a passion project. So in the beginning, that's not a problem for me. I have contracts on the side. And so as long as I can pay my contributors, I'll be happy with that. In the long term, we'll be looking at how this grows. So it will depend on the advertising support. And we will be looking into any possibilities for grants as well, where we could apply for that, or what status we'd need to apply for that. Do we have to make changes, things like that? So we're looking at different revenue options as well. But phase one is really going to be based on how many eyeballs there are, and how many people are interested, how many people are signed up to the newsletter, because those areas that have the most people are going to be the areas that manufacturers, suppliers, vendors, they're all going to want to sponsor or put money into. So yeah. So that question is, as long as my contributors are paid, I'm happy.
I didn't put my
Jenny,
electronic.
I see your hand.
Wow, that is just an amazing thing that you've created. It's just kind of astonishing and wonderful. So congratulations. I pitched a story idea, 2 story ideas to Sky News, and was really lucky and happy with how it turned out. Professional writers wrote the 2 articles. Is that an idea you would entertain, like pitching us? I actually just had a story idea when we were talking here, but I wouldn't want to write it. It might involve interviewing, say, 3 people around a theme.
I'm always open to story ideas.
So I'll just send it in.
Yeah, never feel feel open to always send out story ideas. I'm always, I always have an eye out or an ear out for good stories. So I love to hear what's going on. Sometimes we'll be sitting around talking to somebody and a story idea will come up, or I'll say like, oh, that's really interesting what you're talking about. Let's do an interview. So maybe it'll be you that wants to do the interview, or maybe you'll say, no, it's not me, but these are the people that you can contact if you're interested. That's kind of how it came up with Samantha Lawler, the professor in Regina. So she had an idea, she had something to say, and I said, well, what I guess what you have to say about satellite pollution is, the way you're saying is a bit strong, and I can't include it on the website that intensely, but let's do an interview, and I'll create something out of that. So
yeah, and because I guess my follow-up question was, because I assume that the professional writer who was hired to write the 1 story that I pitched was paid, and so that's when you're talking about contributors being paid from Astronomy by Night. Is that correct?
yeah, so most of right now, we have, what's happening is that the Charles, Samantha, they've all volunteered. And then I'm paying a bit out of pocket for some contributors. But and then of course I write the majority of the other articles. I don't have a science background, I have a journalism background, so I have the ability to question them, do interviews, and write articles based on that. I would not be able to write the weekly observing articles that Chris Vaughn writes. That's not in my field at all. So just to give an example, but things that involve reaching out, understanding, interviewing, writing a full, like the feature story, profiles, things like that, those I just write myself. A lot of it also depends on timing. So I did calculate before the website was launched, before it was even decided that we'd move ahead with it, how much time I would have to put into it, and how much, and I spread that out over a week. And so all these things have been pre-calculated.
Oh, good, because it seems very ambitious. And are you considering at all a Facebook presence or a social media presence in companion?
That is a really great question, because we don't have the I just realized nobody can see the screen here. We don't have the media icon, the social media icons on this. So that is a really good catch. We discussed it today. There's an incredible amount of programming and adjustments in the back end of WordPress that goes on. And testing, and up until today, we were still doing some tests, just up until this presentation. The icons will be added, but it wasn't, of all the other things we needed to add, it was kind of on the lower end of the list. However, those social media accounts do exist: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram was created.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I'm actually posting every day on those. We just have to integrate the icons into the website still.
Oh, so there is a Facebook page right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good.
it's hard to find because right now we don't have a large enough presence on Google. So we are adjusting all the articles and the website to fit SEO best practices. And so it'll come, but it takes time. It won't just show up in about a week or a month. So if you do just a search for Astronomy by Night Facebook, it actually doesn't show up yet.
Okay.
But we'll be sure to add the icons. That's something that's I put on the list and I've discussed with my husband to do this week. So, but very good catch.
Well,
Yeah.
one last
Oh,
question.
I think we'll, is it a quick one, Janine?
I can leave it.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Carina. Is this the first interview that you've given on the topic?
It is. You guys are my first. I really
Whoa!
appreciate it.
Okay, we
thank
wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And there's lots of stuff happening in Victoria. I'm sure that we'll try to get you some content, and we will definitely encourage our membership to join in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time.
I just became your first follower.
Oh,
On
thank
Twitter.
you.
On Twitter.
I realized I had none. Thank you so much. I'll let Randy go on to the other presenters, but thank you. I really appreciate that.
I like how you have Chris and Shane's podcast up on there too.
Oh, you know them.
That's
Great.
pretty cool. Oh yeah, I've known Chris for a long time. I've been listening to that almost since it started.
Their next one's going to come up, I think this week or the beginning of May, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Howard Banich one's really good.
I'll have to see which one they're sending me. They send me whichever one they. But yes, sorry. Yeah.
Probably that one.
Okay. Good to know.
Feel free to stay aboard, but I know it's late for you.
Yeah, and then I'll log off. But
thank you for joining us.
Thank you again. Congratulations, Kemi, and thanks everybody. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Can we go and do some IAW, International Astronomy Weekend news? So that's going to be David, Lauri, and Malcolm.
Yeah, so we've been busy. We've been very busy. And thank you so much for everybody who's participated and will be participating. I think we've got a good crowd, but we could always use a few more people.
Yeah, for sure. We have our speakers lined up. Thank you to Nathan and John and David who are here, and another 4 other people that are going to be presenting. We also have got other people that are going to be the leads from a lot of the different organizations around, and we just want to make sure that if you are a lead, that if you need anything else from us, if you're having trouble getting a volunteer or anything like that, please let us know, and we can get some things out. David has been putting together some little vignettes for social media, and so if like for instance, Brock, if you've got just a couple of lines and a really neat photograph that might be being used this coming Sunday, if you've got something to give us, we can put something up about astrophotography. And Margie, just even like a hello and welcome, and we come to the welcome desk and come and see us and ask us questions, that kind of thing. We just want to put something up even a couple of times a day of the different things that are happening. So that would be great. Bill, we've got yours, so we're going to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and really just 2 or 3 sentences, maybe not even that. And then if you have a graphic that goes with it, that's great. If you don't, I'll find one.
We can find something. So that's going up. And thanks to Chris Gainor for helping with some of the press. And Chris, we're going to try to get Madeline Marshall to possibly do something with the JWST if she'll agree to, and maybe doing a little bit of a spot for the JWST, that would be great. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Okay, so maybe I can kick something out in a couple of days. I'm really
Yeah.
busy tomorrow with other things, but after that I can.
Yeah, no, that's great.
And we can put out an advisory about the tickets on the hill and all that stuff.
Yeah, so the FDAO, the tickets for the Saturday night are completely gone. As we normally do, they just got snatched up. And but any of you that are planning on coming up, either as for volunteers, I think Marianne, I'm not sure whether Marianne is still here. Marianne is going to be doing it. Yeah, thank you, Marianne. And a couple of other people I know that have already said that they want to come up to either put up their telescopes or help in the help inside. That would be great. Just make sure that you contact Amy Rawson. So it's just RAWSON at centeroftheuniverse.org, and give her your name to make sure that you're on the list so that people can get up. And we're going to be doing just come up before 7 if you can get there. And sorry,
how early can people come up?
Oh, I mean, we'll be there at 6. You know, I mean, I will be there by like 6 o'clock or so. But if you can come up before 7, then you won't get yourself into the problem of being in the big long lineup for the cars. So that's what we're trying to do. So I think everything is pretty well set. We're going to be streaming. The fellow that's going to be doing the presentation, he's coming from the East Coast, and does work on mega constellations. And I guess Samantha Lawler, just what Carina was talking about, is Samantha Lawler is doing some work as well on that. And we're going to be streaming him. And so if you don't get a chance to get up, then his presentation will be streamed on the FDAO YouTube channel. At the time, it'll be on at 8 o'clock. So you can and have a look for him. And then on Sunday, I think we're all pretty well set. Again, it's 11 to 4. We'll be setting up in the morning, probably somewhere between 8:30 or 9:30 or so and 11. And then so if you're available to come in at that time, we need to be setting up a lot of things at that point. If there's anybody that could offer to, if there's anybody that's going to be up at the center on Saturday night that has some sort of a large enough vehicle that will take the tent that we put up. It's a fairly large, I don't know what the size of it is. I'm thinking it's probably 5 feet, 5 feet long and about 2 feet kind of in cube. And I can't get it in my car. As anybody's got a vehicle that could put that in their car and then come up on the Sunday morning to Vic, I need to have that transferred. Everything else, I think we're pretty good about being able to put in cars and have that, but that tent is the one thing that I haven't got yet. So David, is there anything else that we are missing?
Yeah, I think I would just remind all the leads. There's actually going to be one more message that's going to come out.
Yeah.
It's going to talk a little bit about parking and when we expect people to be there. But I think this is the time you start making that checklist to make sure we don't forget things on each of the days. That's one thing. And yeah, I mean, other than maybe sending out a couple of sentences about what you're planning on doing, that would help us with the social media. And yeah, outside of that, I think, I don't know, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
And I think, Malcolm, you were going around this past few days putting up some posters. I also have some more posters if anybody wants them. And David put out a link, I believe, to everybody. Is that correct, David? Did the link get out to the general membership?
For the
Or
little
just
poster?
just for the posters so people could print it if they wanted? Or did it just go out
we
to the
could-
leads?
It just went out to the leads. I think
Okay.
what I will do, the little one is quite small. So, and it's still printable. So what maybe we might do is maybe put it on the website and people can print
Yeah,
it. if they want.
okay. So please
And-
put it
and
up
on
anywhere you
Facebook
can
so we
find.
share it. Put it on
Yes.
Facebook so we can share it. That's got the largest reach, I think.
Okay.
Yes, probably, yeah. Okay,
Lau-
so sorry,
Lauri,
Malcolm. Oh,
How
Yes.
big is how does the tent package?
it is in a rectangular prism of about 5 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet.
I think in the past it was transported by Sid or somebody with a truck.
No, would it strap to the roof of a car?
No, it's heavy.
No,
I-
no, I don't, no, I'm not worried about heavy. I'm thinking, is it contained?
Yes,
know
it's
what I
all,
mean?
In a bag.
yes,
It's in a bag.
it's in a
Oh, well
bag.
then, okay, then it could strap to my roof rack.
Okay,
Probably.
It's
That
very
would be terrific.
possible. Okay,
okay, thank you. Okay.
we'll see.
So Malcolm, do you want to just kind of just let us know where you have been putting out some of the posters?
Is
And
Malcolm still there?
Still on? I thought he was.
I-
Okay, well,
His name up.
maybe not.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay. So
That-
thanks, everybody.
Right,
Contact
thank you.
David or I if you've got any questions.
Thank you so much. Margie has requested 10 seconds of your time.
Go. Mallory Thorpe was to speak to us. Mallory Thorpe was to speak to us on May the 8th. She emailed me the other day and her arrival in Germany has been delayed. So she is actually going to be flying out on the day on May the 8th. So we will be rebooking her for September.
And if you have ideas for a talk or a speaker to invite for May 8th, please contribute.
Yeah, I think we were trying to find a spot for somebody. So maybe I'll talk to Chris later or you later.
Well, I've been in contact with the guy who was the CubeSat from UVic that went up on the space shuttle, and he was busy until sort of the end of school. So I'll send him an email to see if he put something together, because he said he'd have to wait until UVic was over. So it might be.
That would be awesome. We would
I'll do
love-
what I can.
Okay, thank you, Margie. So, Chris, and then I'll give my talk about the eclipse.
Okay. So Starship, I'll talk about Starship just a minute. I actually put together a few slides to show. And can you see it? Can you see that now?
Yep.
Yes.
So the Starship, this is the first full version of the Starship with the two big stages, and it was launched on Thursday from the SpaceX Starbase in Boca Chica, Texas. And the flight lasted about 4 minutes. They were hoping that it might do kind of a full circuit of the Earth, actually go into orbit and then re-enter after one orbit. But Elon Musk set the bar pretty low for things by saying, well, if we get it off the pad, I'll consider it successful. So if you watch the launch, you have what is, for somebody my age, something of a surreal experience. You know, like at every juncture, people are cheering. you know, and in the old NASA days, there weren't any cheering until splashdown, you know, after a successful mission. So I'll just go briefly over what happened. So the launch took place, and the first thing that people noticed was that there was a huge amount of smoke and things were flying all over the place. And in this photo here, you can see those are actually pieces of debris flying up. And there was a car that was wrecked, and a lot of the cameras that people had placed around there to record the launch, you know, closer to where the people were, a lot of them were just destroyed. It was quite a crazy event in that respect. And then as the rocket was rising, you can see it has what is it? I think 33 engines at the bottom there, which of course reminds people of the Soviet answer to the Saturn V rocket. It was called the N1, and it had 30 engines at the bottom, and they had no end of trouble with them. And interestingly enough, the Starship only got about as far as the N1 ever did in its 4 attempts. But the interesting thing about this is that the engines that aren't firing, you can see the gaps in there. There's no engine bells there. So a lot of people think, well, they were blown off at the launch, which indicates quite a serious problem. Anyway, the rocket rose, and then it just didn't quite get to the point where it was supposed to. The second stage was supposed to separate from the first stage. There was kind of a long delay, and interestingly, some people noted that it actually stayed intact for, you know, roughly a minute after that should have happened before it finally disintegrated. I wouldn't say exploded, but it disintegrated in the air at about 4 minutes into the flight, while everybody was applauding. So anyway, the smoke cleared, and then the day after, I saw this picture, which I found quite shocking. So this was the bottom of the launch pad at the end, and you can see there's a big crater there. And you know, every launch pad gets damaged on every launch, but you know, not something like this is not something that usually happens, because they're usually designed you know, so that the damage is minimal. And so we can see why there was so much crap flying around, and why the engines might have been damaged, and why even things further away were damaged. So this suggests to me that not only do they have to reconstruct this launch pad, I think they have to rethink the design of the thing. Now, even before this became clear, Elon Musk was saying, "Oh well, it'll be you know, for several months before the next launch attempt," and I think it could be longer. Now there have been some statements coming out saying, "Well, we were thinking of putting in a great big flame trench or something like that, like on other launch pads, but we didn't think we needed it for this launch because, you know, we weren't firing the engines as hot as they might have been," and all sorts of things. I think there's a certain amount of smoke being blown, but we shall see what they decide to do. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what some other rockets have, and these ones are a lot smaller or generally than the Starship. Now at the left there, and you can see a person standing in the lower left corner there. That's the shuttle pad, and you can see the flame trench in there, and you can also see kind of a deflector which is placed right under the shuttle engines to blow the smoke out. And of course, that was originally designed to handle the Saturn V, that pad and that flame trench. So that's pretty big. And then the picture at the right shows the launch pad for the Russian Soyuz rockets, which are not nearly as powerful as the Saturn V, but it's just huge. And you can see the deflector under the pad and the structure on top where the rocket is enclosed until it's time for launch. And then we're standing at the other end of the flame trench, which is the nickname for it at the Russian launch site is the stadium, because it's that big. So this just kind of stand that they built for the Starship on top of something. I mean, a lot of us think this doesn't really cut it, but anyway, this is kind of the situation. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things, though. There's been a lot of testing already, and I think more needs to be done on the upper stage of the Starship. We can see one of the Starships in a picture here in one of the tests. And the upper stage is actually the part you may have heard, well, they're going to use the Starship for Artemis. The idea is to land a kind of a specially designed version of the upper stage on the moon, as you can see in this artist conception. And so that's a little separate from what's going on here, but there is still a lot more work on that to be done before they can use it to land people on the moon. So we will see how that goes. So that's what I have to say about the Starship. I just wanted to show one other picture. Today, 33 years ago today, the Hubble Space Telescope was launched. Ooh. And usually on the anniversary, NASA releases a special photograph, and this is what they released a few days ago for the 33rd birthday of Hubble. NGC 133 and Perseus. So anyway, the actual deployment of Hubble was on the 25th. It was launched on 24th on the shuttle Discovery, I believe, and then the next day it was deployed. And then if you want to read what happens after, read my book. So that's what I have to say. And I think I have a question here.
Yeah, Chris, is this photo that was just released, is this like a legacy photo or a recent photo?
I would think it's fairly recent.
Okay, thank you.
And somebody's waving there.
It's less. A couple of the media sources reported that the Starship had been exploded by signal from the ground. Are you definitive about what happened?
I don't know about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that had happened. Because it was staying together, and it was getting out of control, and it did have range safety equipment, which is basically explosives. I actually just haven't seen an account which discusses that, whether they did that or not. So but I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
In one video I saw, it looked like they'd lost directional control just before it blew up. It was not going straight, it was starting to angle.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it was range control.
Yeah.
I saw.
As I understand it, that image of it coming down not under control was also showing it bending at the interstage point. So as to whether they actually destroyed it from the launch destruction sequence, or whether it blew up on its own, I think is probably a moot point.
Yeah.
And what was the euphemism? Uncontrolled.
This is
Rapid
uncontrolled.
Rapid uncontrolled disassembly, yes.
Now, was that a joke, or were they serious about it?
No, that was coined in 2014 by Elon Musk after one of his unsuccessful launches. But he was doing tongue in cheek because NASA at the time was saying that this operation is non-nominal. And so he's just poking fun at the ridiculous language that NASA uses. So that's what that's about. I loved it. It was great.
I like that non-nominal.
RUD.
Yeah.
Control disassembly. I read it.
So yes, this is bigger than the Saturn V, but I will point out that the first Saturn V, Werner von Braun originally wanted to sort of test it bit by bit, but there was a guy there named George Miller who said, you know, we have to get to the moon by the end of the decade, and we don't have time for these step testing. So although the third stage of the Saturn V had already flown on the Saturn I, the Saturn 1B, the whole stack was launched the first time, and that was a complete success. Although they did do one more test flight, and it actually wasn't completely successful. They had a few problems, but they didn't result in, you know, the spacecraft did get into orbit, not the orbit they wanted, and they felt that they could fix it. So the third flight of the Saturn V was Apollo 8 with you know, a full crew on board. And you probably never heard about the second flight of the Saturn V because as fate would have it, a very major and sad event took place later that day, which just kind of overshadowed it. That flight took place the same day that Martin Luther King was killed. So it was just completely wiped out in terms of news interest.
Thank you for this, Chris. You added a lot of insight.
Yes, you're welcome. And I will jump off here.
Yeah. And I'll share my screen. And start my presentation. There we go. So there was a solar eclipse on the other side of the world this week. I was in choir practice. It was actually on the 19th here. It was Wednesday night. And I just decided to check out what was happening during our break. And the timing was exquisite. So I actually got to watch it live on one of the live streams. So I could tell you it probably was somewhere around 8:30 our time here. But it was on the 20th in Australia. And the notable aspect of it is that it was a hybrid eclipse. Happens about 4% of the time. So the one that everybody is so happy about is the total eclipse, and that's when the moon is close enough to the Earth that doesn't matter whether you're on one limb or the other limb of the sun, both sides of it are in shadow at the surface of the Earth. And so the moon's bigger than the sun, and you get to see the corona, and everybody hoop hoop and is all happy. And then there is the times when the moon is closer to its aphelion, not its perihelion, perigee, get that right. It's so when it's at its apogee or further away from the Earth, then the moon's a bit too small, and then the sun is larger than the moon, and you get the ring of fire, which is also pretty cool, but not as cool. So just got me thinking about it. And then there's this other thing. Hold on, we don't see the full screen here in the room, and I know how to do that. Oh, I have to do it with this. I have two mice here right now. I have to say X, and it should, there we go. So Mr. Eclipse, Fred Espenak, was there for, I don't know what number, his 40th total eclipse, something crazy like that. And he said, clearly a solar max type of corona. So that means it's a very active sun. And as somebody was saying, there's lots of aurora on Earth right now, and that's related to it. But his observation was the corona was in all directions and was stunning to the naked eye. But then he went on with another thing in his Facebook. Total solar eclipse earlier today was a great success, particularly clear sky. But 62-second long eclipse is way too short. Bang, bang, bang. And the other thing, if you take a look at, here's 50 years of eclipses going across Australia and, southeast part of the world. And you see that this one is really thin. So that's what I really want to talk about. Thin and short. So here we're looking at it on date and time. And so it starts off here close to the Kerguelen Islands. And then it goes just a bit into Australia, it crosses, it's not called Papua New Guinea there. What is that? Is that Samoa? Who knows? Borneo. Somebody said Borneo.
Possibly Borneo.
And then it goes through Micronesia. Okay, and the thing is, it just clips this one little peninsula where 3,000 people live, called what's it called? Bournemouth? Exeter. Anyway, everybody went there. So the population of Exeter, Australia, went up, tenfold, and they had their 62 seconds of totality. But let's take a look at the two edges of the beginning and the end of the eclipse. Here we are at Kerguelen, and you see that there's this period here where there is no totality. That's when it was a ring of fire. And Leslie, it's a good question. And then you're in Mujaro, around there. Again, it disappears for a bit. Fascinating. So I took a look at the Nautical Almanac. I'm sure you're all very aware. You have one on your bookshelf and you pull it out whenever you need it. Anyway, I just blew up the important lines. The semi-diameter of the sun, 15.9 minutes. And I was expecting to see. So this is on the 19th, then the 20th, so the day that we're interested in, and the 21st. Okay, so sure enough, the semi-diameter of the moon, of the sun and the moon are 15.9 degrees. But I was thinking, I thought it was going to be smaller before because of that hole in the Kerguelen Islands, and I hadn't looked in Micronesia yet. But it seemed to be going the wrong direction. Then using my favorite moon observation website, the NASA's SVG, scientific visualization thing. They have dial-a-moon, and you can dial in the date and time, and it shows you what the moon should look like at that particular time. And so I looked at it at 3, at 4, at 5 universal time. So that it hit Australia around 4. So that shows it. And you see that the moon diameter is getting smaller. So it's in seconds, okay? So it's going down every hour. It's going to, about 0.8 of a second smaller. But, and if you put that into moon distance, you can see that the moon is moving away at, 160 or so kilometers every hour. So it doesn't explain it, but that is the distance from the center of the Earth to the center of the moon. Aha, says I. It's because at the beginning of the eclipse, so viewers down at Kerguelen Island are seeing kind of along the edge, the moon is a bit further down in this diagram, and the shadows over here. And so the moon is further away from the observer at the beginning than where the observer will be in Australia. And sure enough, the Earth is 6,000 kilometers radius. And so way, way bigger than, that this is just moving in the third decimal place in the hundreds, but the distance that the moon is further away from the sun when you're here than you're here is going to be thousands of kilometers. And that's enough to make this one a hybrid. You're further away if you catch it at the beginning or at the end of the eclipse. You're closer when you're in the middle. And I've never seen that before. And probably the real eclipse heads all know that, but it was a fun little project to work that out.
But the thing that I was musing on,
yes,
was that it had a narrow band of total eclipse in one segment, then none, and then returned.
Leslie, you are absolutely correct, and I don't.
That's the part that I don't.
Why is it at both ends it disappears and it comes back? And that's pretty cool. I'm thinking it's something because you're seeing it on the edge, and so you're, I don't know. Any ideas out there?
Would refraction have any issue in this?
There'd also be a lot of refraction too.
Yeah, if you're going through a more oblique angle.
I mean, there's no question that you see it moving very quickly through this time. It's zipping along the Earth's surface at the beginning and at the end. So you're seeing it very obliquely. And it's only, then it slows down as it moves across from Australia up into Borneo.
But it's at a zenith.
Yeah, it's at its zenith for
Minimal.
most of it, and it's just at the edges. And so it's not like there's a whole bunch of people, well, there's nobody, I don't think any human beings will actually be living under the Ring of Fire
But if-
last Thursday.
But if it's that close to being total, maybe it's just the curvature of the Earth at either end.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm wondering, Randy, if this is also related to the fact that the Earth is, or I mean, the moon is tilted and doesn't orbit perfectly around the equator, but is, and you would know this, I don't, is the moon oblong just like the Earth is?
okay, that would be a very good question for Kemi too. So the reason that the pendulum or the acceleration due to gravity is lower at the equator is twofold. One is because the rotation makes the Earth bulge out, so it is further from the center of the Earth at the equator than at the pole. But also you have the centrifugal force, which counters the gravity. The moon has very little flattening because it takes a whole month for it to go around. And so I don't know what the number is. It's like 1 part in 300 for the Earth, but it's really, really tiny for the moon. But such a cool question. And I don't know whether when they do these calculations, they even take into account the
Oblateness of the Earth.
yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's super, Dwayne.
Yeah, I just looked it up. The moon is a oblate spheroid.
By
Pardon me?
what amount?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It just says that it's oblate. So
well,
it's a
everything
squished,
will be.
a squished
Everything
ball.
will be, but it's much closer to us here. So just some fun pictures. This is just before you can see this cone of shadow coming down. This is just seconds before all these very happy people are in a cloudless sky on this cruise near Australia. What time is it? Do we have time? This is a 2-minute YouTube. I'll just take the vote here. Do we want to see it?
Yes.
You have time.
Okay, here we go. Oh, that didn't do it. Come on, that's supposed to be live. Are you doing your magic?
Sometimes when you do that, Randy, it opens up a separate window and you may not be sharing that window. There you are.
It is.
Okay. So the first thing this photographer did was lower the exposure, but look at that fountain over there at 8 o'clock. So I'm supposed to, by the time it was in totality, I'm supposed to start paying attention to our director, but I just had the phone next to me. I was paying much more attention to this beautiful scene. So this is no processing. This is just what they saw. And the advantage of a 62-second eclipse is that we can watch the whole thing in real time.
It's too fast.
It's still loading, I think.
Oh no, this is going. This is live.
Real time.
It's in real time. It's at speed. You just don't see a whole bunch. I see something up top. Is it frozen? No, it's moving along. And I think I see something at just before 12 at the top. I see something in the corona maybe moving. But yeah, that is a very active sun. And then comes the diamond. What do you call it? The diamond ring?
Yeah.
And the Bailey's beads. And soon they're going to change the exposure again. And the eye is a lot better than the electronic things. It saturates too much. We have much more dynamic range with our eye.
That's why it's worth seeing the eclipses in person.
And they changed the exposure, and I think we get the trick. Oh, there it stops anyway. Good. And where is my talk? Okay, so yeah, this is the they put a solar observatory at the L1 point, the Lagrange 1 point between the Earth and the Sun. And then kind of at the last minute in the design, they decided to put a camera pointing at the Earth because it's always pointing over the Earth. And so this was its picture. And this is a live link also. We can see what it looked like. This is a much quicker little video. There we go. I love these photos. So that's what it looks like way far from the Earth. And then my next picture, I had no idea about. Has anybody heard of the Hakuto R spaceship? This is a private company, Japanese company, that tried to win some award, and it took too long. It had to be done by 2018, but they went ahead, and it's going to land on the moon with a lander from the United Arab Emirates. And it's landing tomorrow, and I had no idea about it. Anyway, this is a picture of the moon while it is casting a shadow on the Earth. I think that wins.
That's very good.
I think that wins the internet.
That is remarkable.
Love that picture. Is that it? No. Somebody, it was a couple that on Facebook calls themselves average nomads, and they did my favorite thing of putting a colander out to capture the eclipse. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Randy. That was great.
Okay. Do we have a last word?
I'll throw one in. Donnelly and I were in the South Pacific in 2005 in April to see the hybrid total eclipse. And we were at the center line and it lasted 33 seconds. So half as much. It was absolutely fantastic.
Well done, Mike. Dennis.
Just a response back to Lauri's request there about transporting the tent or whatever. I know Bill offered strapping it to a roof or something like that, but we actually have a pickup truck. So if it probably would make more sense if, you could we could help out with that, make it easier for everybody.
Dennis, are you planning on being up at the center sometime on Saturday or Sunday or Saturday?
I wasn't, but I thought you were talking about moving it on Sunday over to the university, or was it a Saturday thing?
Well, it needs to be at UVic at for about 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you wanted to do it, you could go to the center and get it in the morning and then go to UVic. I don't know where you live, so.
Well, I'm in View Royal, so I'm not too far from the center. So I just kind of thought, if
Okay,
My
well,
mate-
that might be Dwayne, that might be better than you coming all the way down from from where you are to do it, although I've had a couple of people say that they might help. Let me have a look at the timing and see what I can do, and I can get back to all of you. Dennis, would you just send me a quick email about that, please, to my roche.lauri@gmail.com?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Roche.Lauri, sorry.
Sorry, roche.lauri, LAURI @gmail.com.
You are right. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. And can I just say one little last thing about the General Assembly?
Yep.
Before we all, okay. General Assembly is happening from the 5th to the 7th of May. And the tickets are available right now. We've got most of all the program is kind of set and up on the website. And what I'm really hoping is we do have an astrophotography contest, and we also have a citizen science poster project happening at the same time, and both of those are due just about May the 1st or so, like just early next week. So, but if any of you have got any gorgeous photographs, which I know you all do, you just need to kind of go to the GA website and put send an astrophotograph in if you're interested in doing that. We want some more, and anybody doing a citizen science project, you can get something in as well. But I hope everybody's going to be there. Jeremy Hansen is going to be speaking. Linda Shore from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. We have got major speakers all 3 nights, and some plenary sessions, which are going to be interesting. The one I'm really looking forward to is the one on misconceptions of science and how we can talk to the public about misconceptions and about kind of false news of what's happening kind of these days in science. And that might be it's a whole panel of people that are going to be part of that. Andrew Fizakis is going to be coming with that, and Joe Schwartz, who is well known as a person who does some work on misconceptions as well. Anyway, it sounds really good, and we hope that everybody will come to the GA. Thanks.
So Lauri, that's available on the national website?
It's on the GA.
Oh, it's a
GA
specific
2023. Yes.
website.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be a link, but it's a GA 2023. I
Okay.
can throw that into something. So, okay.
Yeah,
Thanks,
maybe throw it
everybody.
into the chat.
Okay, let's see if I can find it.
The Sky News, put the send it to everybody.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Yeah.
And with that, we get to call it a close. This has been a wonderful Astro Cafe. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Oh dear. When did it stop recording?
Thank you. Great night.
Oh, it's the wrong computer. That's it.